And so we move on to the next session, which is very appropriately about corporate travel and what has changed forever, because I would have been in Tokyo today if not for COVID. So please welcome to my panel. We have Kei Shibata from Venture Republic Group, TRAVEL.jp and Trip 101 in Tokyo. And we have Johnny Thorsen, who's Vice President Strategy and Partnerships from Spotnana, dialing in from space. And we have Bertrand Saillet, who's Managing Director, Fcm Travel Asia, dialing in from, I believe, Singapore, Bertrand. So welcome, welcome, guys. So we have had enough discussion around how business travel has changed forever, right? So what we're going to do is, I'm going to divide this panel into 3 parts, and we're going to go through a journey of corporate travel. And the first part is trend watch, right? And I ask each of you to basically specify 3 trends that you feel have great impact on corporate travel. And Bertrand, you chose duty of care, sustainability, and technology. So pick one and talk about it. Maybe duty of care?
Why not? It's a good one. I mean, you traveled recently, and you know that those days, if you want to go from point A to point B, it might require a bit of engineering around the trip. And a lot of those things are obviously linked to health issues and vaccination status and testing and things like that, which makes obviously all of the students, those things coming on top of the list. But I think it's a wider point anyway. I think with COVID, a lot of companies realized that the way they were managing travel before was very traditional, and they were looking at travel agencies much more as you issue my ticket and then I'm done with it. While now they realize that the responsibility as a company when you send people abroad is much wider, because it includes obviously a lot of dependency on the health and safety of your travelers, which was probably more prominent in the West in the past, and now it's coming to Asia. I was going to say thanks to COVID, because I'm always trying to see positive things out of any crisis, and that might be actually a good one, because it's driving corporations to much more sensitivity around this topic, which is obviously extremely important. And for us as a provider, that means that we need to provide solutions that help corporations to adapt to this new normal, which, obviously we don't know how long this is going to last. But what we know is that duty of care is a forever topic, really.
Yeah, as you said, I was definitely, a guinea pig. I booked with FCM, and I traveled, around the world with you in 28 days. And, my biggest concern, and for my company too, because I was on a business trip plus pleasure, was, what happens if I test positive, right? Where do I get the right test? And so I found that your chatbot, Sam, really useful in giving general information, but then when you wanted really specific, particular information, you still needed that human interface, which was you, Bertrand, right? So I think duty of care, I agree with you, is going to be a big thing for companies globally and in Asia as well. And I can see our company, for example, getting into that. So Johnny, you picked, all 3 of you picked one thing in common, which was sustainability. And then you picked sustainability, transformation, and platformatization, okay? And you're going to talk about that at the end. So why don't you talk about transformation?
Yeah. So I think one of the trends that are clearly emerging right now in the large corporate travel environment is that companies are realizing they don't have to accept anymore that everything has to be done country by country. If you look at most corporate travel programs, they will have managed to go online in 50 to 70% of their global markets. There will be a pool of 30 to 40% that is still offline, typically because it's either too expensive to go online in a small market, or the technology simply has not evolved to reach those smaller markets. And that's where we're going to see transformation, making it possible to have one global solution, which you can deploy everywhere. So the problem that it costs $50,000 per country or $1 million globally to roll out an online booking solution will kind of go away. the cost will be extremely low. And once you have launched country number 1, you will be able to add additional countries at almost no cost. And this is driven by cloud computing primarily, because we no longer need to have all these kind of local variances. They're still important from a servicing the traveler and from a content perspective, right, but it will be rolled into the kind of the cloud-based backend. And then you just activate the front end in any market where you want to have the service activated. So I really believe that cost of deploying online will drop dramatically.
Okay, so global solution with local deployment that's scalable with affordable technology because of the cloud. And in fact, I was listening to a podcast with Phil Spencer, the Xbox head, and he said that with games or with metaverse now, basically, what was critical is content, community, and cloud. And those three are the ingredients that can create the move towards a metaverse. So Kay, you talked, your 3 trends were digital transformation, personalization, and sustainability. So let's talk about digital. Do you want to talk about personalization?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the this personalization is something a little bit similar to what the Bertrand actually pointed out too. So the point I'm trying to actually make here is the COVID actually complicates many things, right? So regulations to the testing and everything. So this under new normal times, I see the corporate travel and management and arrangements become so complex, and and then personalized service, as opposed to self-booking. The self-booking is kind of like a big trend now. The trip actions and all those like a new kids on the block. Actually, they are pushing the self-booking because it actually saves a lot of time and then money. But at the same time, I think it's because of the COVID, under the new normal times, actually things get more complicated. I think it is kind of ironic that this personalized service, for example, like a chatting with a concierge, human concierge, can be even more important than just having me actually go to their website and just book by myself.
Right, sure. I mean that's I think that's what FCM has with its chatbot and but with an interface with the human element. Now, because the 3 of you picked sustainability, so clearly it's a big topic. And I don't know if you listened to the presentation by David Wills just now about airlines and sustainability, where they've basically done a report on the ranking of airlines and carbon emissions. And what I thought was interesting was, like the 3 takeaways that I got was, low cost, full planes and new aircraft tend to do better in terms of lower carbon emissions. Tell me, Bertrand, how is a company like FCM sort of incorporating sustainability, and how are you getting suppliers to move with you, to ensure that corporations meet their sustainability goals?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that sustainability is not only about carbon emission. Carbon emission is one of the dimensions of sustainability, but it goes much further than that. And in the travel industry in particular, it touches supporting communities, making sure that you actually pay your people an appropriate salary and wage in every country where you operate, and helping your customers basically going for sustainable providers, as you said. So one thing that we've built is a comprehensive offering around sustainability to help our customers to tailor the travel program and taking the sustainability part into consideration. And that goes with selecting providers. It goes to obviously building a travel policy around those sustainability goals that we need to understand from the company as well. It goes also through working with partners that can help us offsetting carbon emission for companies. So we have actually a live agreement right now where we can help the company to offset their carbon footprint should they need to. But as I said, I think it's very important that we don't fall into the trap of, oh my God, if I take a flight then I'm going to, yes, obviously there's pollution, but for everything we do in life, you know, and I think it goes much further than that. Yes, and the impact on the community is very important too.
All right, Johnny?
Yeah, so I completely agree with Bertrand, right? It's much bigger than carbon emission on a flight, but I think we also getting ready to enter a new phase where if I'm a global travel procurement person, I actually don't want to micromanage my sustainability program at itinerary level. I don't want to look at the individual flight number. I want to look at the whole of the airline. And I know part of what David Wills from Invest, the work they have been doing, I've been kind of helping them on some of the background data. And it's so interesting when you look at the overall performance of an airline instead of focusing in on a given flight number. If I'm a buyer, I want to achieve some goals at the end of the year. And I'm much more likely to do that if I focus at the airline level rather than the flight number level. So I think this whole push we have seen in the last few years with carbon emission numbers moving to the surface, it'll go away because the traveler will trust that the company is doing the right thing from a wider sustainability strategy perspective. And that goes for hotels, it goes for ground transportation, but I also think that carbon budgets will explode in importance. It will overtake financial budgets in a lot of companies. It's the only way to control travel by literally having a carbon budget to work against. And that's a dramatic shift. And it's fascinating to think the impact of that.
Okay, so another way that we can get business travelers on the road, I guess, is, you know, clients have seen how much they've saved, right, during the time of not traveling. Billions of dollars from not traveling. And, you know, it's gonna take some persuasion to get them back on the road the way they were, right? So can you cite one area that clients are seeking cost savings on and how, you know, a TMC like yourself, Bertrand, is needing to respond? Give me an actual example of a cost saving that they're seeking, Bertrand.
Listen, it's kind of ironic because I don't have any. I think cost has been much less of a preoccupation over the past 2 years, to be fair, because they're massively underspent. I think the safety consideration took over the cost saving aspect of it. And now they are looking more at total cost of travel, because if you need to add 3 or 4 PCR tests for one trip, and if you spend quite a decent amount of money on this, it ends up going more than the ticket, you know what I'm saying? So that's more like this consideration. But one thing I want to say as a conclusion of this is that COVID was actually an amazing time to travel, because one positive impact is that airlines obviously had much more flexible rules for travel. And as you know, in corporate travel, usually corporates like booking flexible tickets because it allows changes, refund. During COVID, all airlines were doing that from the lower fares anyway. So you could book the low fare and yet benefit from the high level of flexibility, which, as we know, is not going to last. But at least that was another positive outcome of COVID for the courageous one that were still traveling during this time, is that it was actually a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Johnny, who has been traveling, I know Kay has also been traveling during this period. Johnny, I mean, you are in a new startup. What kind of cost savings are your clients asking you for? Like, how can you save them money?
So it's interesting right now, as Bertrand said, right? It's actually not the overall travel budget, because the savings are so big that the CFO is happy. But they want to save on not having too many different ways of doing things. They want to move to a very consistent, you know, same for everybody in terms of process, not the same in terms of what you can do or how you can sit in the plane, etc. But processes, data capture, policy management, that's where they want to have it streamlined down to one version of everything instead of 50, 60, 70, you know, different versions around the world. And then the other one is having the ability to calculate the potential value of a trip before a booking is allowed. So it's not the old pre-trip approval from a cost perspective. It's really more of a, you know, what is the value of the trip you're planning to do? And why, how can you justify doing it instead of going virtual?
Okay, so value, not cost. Kay, you know, just now you were running the Japanese OTA panel. You covered a bit of corporate travel, and, you know, it wasn't that optimistic, the corporate travel side versus leisure side, right? What are the trends that you're seeing in the Japanese corporate travel market in the last year, when you were allowed to travel, when people were traveling?
Well, clearly, I think we don't see almost a zero demand for outbound business travel market. And if I talk about the domestic, it's been kind of a slowly moving. And of course, it is not as active as a leisure because the corporations are still trying to kind of restrict the employees, the business travels. But in some cases, we started seeing the more actives, and and to answer your original question, how to actually, is there any example of the saving money for clients? So there's one specific example that I can actually bring up to you, which is the using dynamic packages. So earlier today, I think at the OTA session, people talk about the dynamic package, and here in Japan, at least, I think the dynamic package can be more competitive than booking individually, like flights and hotels. And the airlines and also the rail companies, railway companies aggressively pricing dynamic packages. So, and some of our clients actually clearly recognize that opportunity to save their money. And then they actually came to us and, hey, so can you guys actually do more to recommend us the dynamic package products for our employees? And then we've been working very closely in the last couple of months. And then, it's very interesting. And then clearly there's an advantage for the business travelers actually to use the dynamic packages.
Right, interesting trend. Okay, so talking about trends and headlines, I mean, the corporate sector is seeing, funds being raised, right? Travel Perks just raised, I think, $115 million. Amex GBT Cvan going public via SPAC. Johnny, what does this mean? What this consolidation, what does this mean for the corporate and the event sector?
So it should mean that we, over the next 1-2 years, will get some much stronger financially players that are capable of taking some of the big investments that are required to upgrade old tech, because it is a tech play, right? You cannot upgrade your people. You cannot suddenly get a version 2.0 or 3.0 of your agency staff. That's not possible. But you can definitely upgrade your infrastructure, your backend, and your customers facing kind of technologies. And these companies, it's interesting when you see these kind of big legacy players going public via SPAC. I'm not a financial investor, but the SPAC has one benefit, right? You're not subject to the same scrutiny as a traditional IPO. You need to convince one player who has the money to kind of invest in you. So now they have to convince the markets that they can actually modernize and upgrade themselves and be competitive in the future. They have the money, but that does not solve the underlying challenge. And I can only say, as Spotnana, we are struggling to hire tech talent. It is so competitive out there to hire tech talent that are capable of building cloud-based scalable solutions. So I don't know how these old companies are going to do it. I've spoken to several airlines over in Europe while I was there. Most of them have lost half of their tech team. They just said goodbye. They don't want to hang in an airline anymore because it's the worst place you can be from a developer perspective. So I question how many of the travel companies can retain or attract tech talent. So that's really the name of the game. Who are the best at getting the tech talent on board?
Yeah, it's really sort of a global challenge, right? In the US, when I was there, everybody was talking about the great resignation with, even Starbucks not being able to open on weekends because they couldn't even find the humans to actually just man the stores. So it's clearly, but with the great resignation comes the great renewal. So so clearly FCM is looking for renewal in the Japanese market, right? Because you have taken a stake in Japan's NSF engagement to prepare for the corporate travel rebound. So tell us, Bertrand, why this move at this time? What's so significant about, you taking a stake in your Japanese partner?
Well, I mean, Japan is obviously a big corporate travel market. It's still the number 3 global travel market in the world, I think, today. And obviously, that was a bit of a gap in our global offering because we were not owning our business in Japan. We found this amazing partnership with this company. And, sometimes, you also need to be a bit opportunistic and probably a bit lucky. And I think it was a bit of a love at the first sight kind of story with them. They come from Sony originally. They were the in-house agency of Sony originally. We thought it was basically a good marriage. And this is what we are doing now. We went live actually last week officially in Japan. So now it's happening. And we have great expectation for the Japanese market because to Johnny's point, it's true that the future is definitely a tech play. And we do believe that we have an opportunity with what we have today to kind of come and disrupt the market a little on the corporate side. And certainly it's not going to work for every customer, but we need to identify clearly what type of segment we can be very strong on. And as you know, the Japanese market is vast enough to have the opportunity to really look for what is going to be the golden nugget for us. So that's what we are after right now. And we are very excited about that. It was a good time to do it.
So, so that sort of plays in nicely to our next topic, which is about disruption alert and what Kay is doing with his company, because he's clearly sort of identified a tech play and a golden nugget for corporate to unlock corporate travel, right? And so he's launched his chat-based corporate booking tool last year with Line work. And can you share what kind of customer behavior traction you're seeing with the chat-based corporate booking tool?
Yeah, first of all, we've seen incredibly, great feedbacks from our actual users. The people actually who try to actually book their business trips through the chat platform. So it's a very simple, right? Because almost all of those our customers were used to use emails, phones, and and then the direct communications in those platforms for booking their trips, and then they're so frustrated, right? They are not able to get the quick response, and and everything is so old school, and now they're super happy because they get the things done very quickly, very conveniently on the same, the chat platform they are using for all the other business reasons every day, right? So it's a completely unique customer experience for them. And then, they just love it. And well, to be honest, I think it's we had a little tough time to actually sign up, to have new people sign up. But we have so far got over 100 corporations sign up in the last 6 months. But the good news is actually none of them actually left us, because that once they actually started using, they stick with us.
Right. Because it's familiar behavior, right? And they used to chat, and then why not chat to book a hotel? So, Bertrand, do you have any question you want to ask Kay specifically about this new feature? Since you're entering Japan, I allow you one question.
You know what? It's actually interesting because I was chatting with Ken, who is our general manager in Japan, and he's sitting in the room right now. And I know that they had a bit of a chat with Kay. So I think all of this is going very well. I think the conversations are happening. So that's good.
Fantastic. We at WiT like to bridge and connect the dots. So Johnny, I know Johnny is like a veteran in corporate travel, but clearly with this startup, I'm calling him a Johnny come lately, and with Spotnana, he basically he's basically wanting everyone to innovate and build services for the entire industry. So he's building, I want to try and explain it, Johnny. Okay, so he's building like an app store, which is a single global open platform of cloud-based microservices for corporate clients, TMCs, and suppliers to partake of. That's what he's saying. So Johnny, I mean, you came out of stealth mode September, October, raised $40 million. What microservices are most in demand by corporate clients?
So it's a combination of multiple things, right? And obviously, as long as volumes are depressed as they are right now, it's hard to say if we're seeing what would be the true long-term demand. But one area is clearly more intelligent management of airfares. Companies and airlines are just so tired of the limitations they have for pushing fares and keep them confidential in the old world. The moment an airfare drops today in HPGO, it can be seen by 1,000 people minimum around the world, right? So it's never confidential. So the two parties are looking for new ways of having confidential deals. Another area is new and trip services. That can be anything from ground transportation, restaurant recommendations, luggage services. There's a wide range of doing trip services that are available today, but living in complete separate systems that disconnected from the general booking process in most environments, right? And then the third one is sustainability. And that's so interesting because there will not be a single way of managing sustainability in the global corporate marketplace. There will be many, many ways. And that means the best way to deal with that demand is to be able to say, you bring whatever you want to use, and we will connect it on your booking data. We are not going to tell you how to manage sustainability. That's your decision. So I would say those are the kind of the three big ones. Then group travel, planning, booking, that's a massive area of interest, not surprisingly, because groups will probably be even more important in the future in percentage of total travel. So right. I would say those are the ones that stand out.
Okay, so you're creating basically a platform marketplace of all the kind of services that a corporate traveler would want, whether it's insurance or luggage. So Bertrand, how do you see FCM using a platform like that? I mean, so maybe you don't need to build your own stuff, right? So you can basically connect with Spotnana and just pull his contact.
Absolutely. So the first thing is that, and we're very clear with that, we are not pretending that we can build everything on our side. We want to build more open platforms that allows us to benefit from other developments. And as Johnny said earlier, this is so hard today to find talent. But you need to leverage on what you can find in the marketplace. So definitely a solution like Johnny would be valuable in our ecosystem. What we are going to launch over the next quarter is the new FCM platform, and you will probably hear a lot about that, but this is the full revamp of our tech suite, and it has been built exactly to do this, to basically have the core capabilities of the travel agency expected services, and then the ability to plug additional source of content or services through API, giving a total flexibility to customers to use whatever service we want to use. Right. And services like Johnny's are very relevant in that context. So that's where we are going, obviously.
Right. So Kay, how do you think?
Can I just one, and this happened today. I was on a call with a global pharma company, and they told me that they have just sent out a formal request to all their air and hotel suppliers asking for documentation for which APIs they have in production today. That's when life gets fun, right? Because now there's no hiding. You cannot, send out a marketing blurb message. They are going at the API technical level with tech people on the customer side evaluating the responses. So I think that's a great sign of how we're entering a new phase.
Yeah, they say the big C word in travel this year is going to be connectivity. The one who connects the most, has the most connectivity. So I'm going to have to wrap up, unfortunately, and I'm going to change the questions because I kind of remember that, it's Chinese New Year coming soon. It's the year of the tiger, guys. So it's going to be a very ferocious year. I hope it will be a kind tiger. And so the tiger is about courage. So I'm going to ask you, each of you, what do you want to get braver at personally, Kay? What do you want to get braver at personally?
Admitting mistakes, maybe. Recognize my mistake recognize my mistake maybe. So that's no, so
good. But Bertrand?
Yeah. Invest more and be less afraid of the current context. And because I do believe that the exit of this is going to be brilliant. And sometimes it's hard when you are like deep in the crisis to kind of see the silver lining. And I think that's, you know, and I said that to the team the other day, you're right, Tiger, courage, we need to go for it, because I do believe that we are reaching the end of this thing, and it's about rebuilding and investing and making sure we put the money in a greater industry.
Right. So Johnny is clearly courageous because he's sitting out in space there. So Johnny, what do you want to get braver at?
So I actually think it's a combination of what Kay and Bertrand said. I want to be better and braver at saying no faster, because to focus and move fast forward, you also got to be able to say no to the things that are not important enough. And the opportunities are so big right now that it's about not getting distracted. So that's for me an area to really focus on.
Okay, so it's about being a brave tiger, a speedy tiger, a very focused tiger, and most of all, a humble tiger. So guys, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in real life in the year of the tiger that's coming up, and
absolutely,
you know, and wishing you all lots of prosperity and 恭喜发财 in advance. Thank you so much for your participation in this WiT Japan.
Thank you.
And North Asia. Thanks,
everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe.